The relationship that taught me the most about unhealthy love wasn't my own. It was actually the dynamic between my ex's parents. I used to think that marriage was the goal, and then I watched a relationship that made me question what the commitment was costing someone. It's honestly one of the saddest things I've ever witnessed. And I'm not trying to throw them under the bus or be mean. I just really want to shed some light on some of the dysfunctional relationship patterns that can show up over the course of a long-term committed relationship. There was a woman in my life who worked full-time, managed everything in the household, including everyone's emotions, and then somehow still got labeled as if she wasn't doing enough. What stuck with me the most wasn't anything that she said, it was what she didn't say. It was as if she had learned that keeping the peace was more important than expressing herself. I noticed that her husband didn't feel that way. He had no issue saying exactly what was on his mind. He had no interest in keeping the peace. He did not feel like he needed to walk on eggshells and manage the moods of other people around him. Meanwhile, she was emotionally, physically exhausted because every single day she would come home from work and have to manage the entire household. I noticed the disproportionate distribution of labor. So the husband would kick his feet up after work, he would relax while she did everything. She cooked, she cleaned, she managed the household, she managed conflict, she coordinated holidays, she carried the emotional labor for every single person in the household. She really just did everything, and he really didn't contribute very much. I rarely ever saw him in the kitchen helping. I never saw him cook. Not one time in the 7 years I was in that relationship. And after she would cook an entire meal for the family, she was also responsible for 100% of the cleanup afterwards. Watching that relationship play out really forced me to ask the question, is this where my relationship is headed? Is this really something that I want? And the answer is no. I definitely want reciprocity in my relationships. I need mutual effort from my partner. I'm not going to be responsible for 100% of the household tasks and carrying the emotional labor, which I was already doing, walking on eggshells. So I started kind of noticing some patterns between where my relationship was headed and where his parents' relationship already was 30 years into marriage. And that's definitely not a place where I wanted to end up at all. I think that a lot of women grow up thinking that love means sacrifice, but you shouldn't have to lose yourself in your relationship in order to keep the peace. Some people stay because they're afraid of leaving. They're afraid of doing it on their own. Some people stay because of inertia, right? Staying just feels more comfortable. They've built a life with this person and change is scary. They don't know what that would look like to have to start all over again. Some people stay because of societal expectations that marriage is the right way. Some people do it because of religious beliefs. A lot of people stay because of shame, right? What would it mean to be labeled as divorced? People stay because they really don't know any other way of living. They've already, been with this person for so long. There's kind of that sunk cost fallacy, right? I've already invested so much of my time into this, and that's definitely part of what it was for me. I felt like the embarrassment would be too much. How embarrassing is it that you spent so much of your time and energy building this relationship with this one person only to have it just not work out in the end? So you're, in a way, just kind of determined to make it work. You think leaving is like the absolute last resort. Like, that's not even on the table for discussion. Like, we're gonna go to therapy first, we're gonna work through it, we're gonna talk through our issues. But at a certain point, if only one person is willing to do that, you need to have two mutual parties that are mutually putting in effort to make it work. If only one person is trying to make it work, then that's not a healthy dynamic. If every year of a relationship requires you to become a smaller version of yourself, that is not a price worth paying. You deserve to be in a relationship where you feel whole and complete, and you can show up as you are and be completely accepted. Healthy relationships allow you to grow, allow you to take up space and to really be yourself and express your authentic self. They don't require you to shrink yourself down, become a smaller version of yourself in order to keep the peace. So my question for you is, have you ever witnessed a relationship that made you kind of rethink what healthy love should look like? And what was it for you? I would love to hear in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps.